What if trauma isn't about what's happening to you, but what's happening inside of you? And what if transformation's the same? It's not about what's going on out here, what's happening to you, but what is happening inside of you. And what does this mean for our agency to transform our trauma? Hello and welcome. This is Deborah Simmons. Welcome to the latest episode of The Love Experiment, where we dive deep into what it means to live from love, not fear. So the other day I was watching this amazing conversation between Dr. RANI BORA and Dr. GABOR MATÉ. And I heard in this conversation, both of them point to this idea that trauma is more about what happens inside of you than what happens to you. And that lines up and makes perfect sense with everything that I understand about the three principles of mind, thought and consciousness that point us to an understanding of our thinking. And an amazing quote by the lovely Sydney Banks: if all we learned was not to be afraid of our experience, that alone would change everything, change the world, he said. Where did that comment come from? Why was he confident to make that? Because our trauma and living our lives moment to moment, which we all do to some extent, responding from our trauma within us. And, you know, these can be big things to the tiniest of things, but we spend a lot of our lives reacting to what is going on around us, having a trauma response to many, many things without even realizing we're doing it. So back to Sydney Banks's quote. What he was pointing to was the fact, and the three principles point to this, the fact that we have an experience, we live in the experience of our thinking. We have an experience, we experience what we think. So what we think is how we make sense of the world. Thought is a spiritual gift. We get to have a thought, and whatever we think and believe to be true, take to be true, becomes our reality, becomes what we are responding to. So back to what Gabor and Rani were talking about, saying trauma isn't about what happens to you, but what happens inside of you. What happens inside of you is your thinking, is those thoughts. And what happens is you have a thought and you either take it seriously, believe it to be true, or you just allow it to pass through. So if something happens to you and you have a thought that some kind of I'm not good enough, you make a meaning of whatever it is that demeans you, that makes less of you, that in some way puts you down, and you believe that thought to be true. And then when similar experiences happen, this triggers that same thought, adds thoughts to it, makes it bigger. That's trauma. That's how we get traumatized. And these things can be, you know, literally anything. A parent dying or leaving when we're small, a chair falling over next to us going to sit down on a chair, missing that chair, landing on the floor and everybody laughing at us. It can literally be absolutely anything. A billion of the things that happen to all of us every day. We can have thinking that we believe to be true that can cause a trauma response in us, and that can wake up our fight and flight and have us living in fear continually or for long periods of time, and returning to there the minute that thinking returns. And we do end up having habitual thinking loops. Loads of us live in habitual traumatic thinking loops. So back to Sydney Banks's quote: if all we learned was not to be afraid of our experience, that alone would change the world. If we knew we didn't have to be afraid of the thinking we were having, we wouldn't live from this trauma response. How do we know not to be afraid of it? When we realise that thought is a spiritual gift, and just because a thought is in our head, just because we think it, just because it's there, that alone doesn't make it real and true. We can question it. We can look for something different. We can have a different opinion. So that gives us huge agency around our trauma, simply understanding this is how we work and this is what is available to us. So let's take this one step further. So what I see, if we look again at the three principles, mind, thought and consciousness. Mind, the source of all life, the intelligence behind life, the creator of life. So I like to use the word God. In my work, it just makes complete sense to me. The allness of everything, the beginning and the end, the knower of all things, the creator of all things. So God created our thinking. God created trauma response. There's no mistakes in us. We are not malfunctioning when we do this. We are simply innocently misunderstanding. And through moving into understanding, we can completely transform our experience. So we're not broken. It's not a mistake that we think the way that we think. But most people, and certainly if we don't understand source energy, if we don't understand that when we have thinking, we're not stuck with what we are thinking. We can lean into God, the energy behind life, the truth of all things. It's like playing cards and somebody turning over a card. We can look at the card and say, no thank you, twist. No thank you, twist. No thank you, twist. Stick. I'll stick with this one. We have infinite possibilities. We are creators, born creators. We have this intelligence, the intelligence that created us, at our fingertips. We can lean into it. We can ask. We can either treat it as like a principle, if you like, that is just something like gravity that just does what it does, and God absolutely never changes, is absolutely a principle, but there is so much more to it. We can also treat it like God the Father, God our best friend, God somebody we can turn to. We can call it our spiritual team, the Holy Spirit, whatever. We can lean into it. We can ask for what we need. We can ask for what we want. It is multi-talented. So if we are stuck, if we have thought a specific way about something, whether that is for 2 minutes this morning or whether that is for a lifetime, and this is another really beautiful thing to understand, it makes no difference whether you've been thinking this way for seconds or whether you've been thinking this way for decades. The power behind life, God, this power that we have within us to question that thinking, to see something different, to open up infinite possibility, no matter what it is. And I'm talking about things that an accident, a court case, something very physical out in the world, or abuse, the way someone has looked at you, the way someone has treated you, whether it appears to be a real, like, tangible thing that almost that you could touch, or whether it is something that appears much more I'm not sure what that word is, spiritual, formless, whatever. It really, again, that doesn't make any difference either. When we are leaning into this intelligence, God is not the intelligence of all things and the creator of all things. That's not, what am I trying to say? That isn't a mistake either. This means that anything and everything is possible when we look in this direction. Possibilities that are way beyond our understanding open when we look in this direction. So the agency that we have over our traumas is massive. And then if we bring in, obviously what I'm talking about, what I'm looking at here is the love experiment. So the love experiment is a commitment to living from love, not fear. So if we understand our thinking, if we understand that the thinking we have creates our experience, we have agency over that thinking. We can be open, we can ask to think something else, we can ask to see something else. And that can appear music, somebody talking to you, God's voice in your head. The communication, once we open it, is just mind-blowing. I'm going to sneeze. Oh, excuse me. A real live video. So yeah, that the stuff that opens up is immense. But the love experiment is, on top of all of that, it is a commitment to live from love, not fear. So what does that mean in those moments? What I see, that is like asking, when, all day, every day, this commitment is like asking continually, what's the most loving thought I can have? How can I see this through the eyes of love instead of fear? And that is, as I said, I have no idea what I'm going to think next. None of us do. We can think anything. But to me, having made a commitment to live from love, not fear, it's like I have, it isn't like I have it. I actually have said to God, that source energy, the allness of everything. I would really like my thoughts to be as loving as possible, and to be told in no uncertain terms when it's not. So what it feels like happens to me is my life goes on, I go about my daily life, and when I do something that is not rooted in love, because I have this commitment to live from love, not fear, when I do something or think something or go to do something that isn't rooted in love, it's like a little alarm clock goes off inside me and says, you've made this commitment to live from love, not fear. Are you sure you want to do this, write this, think this, whatever? And I get choice, I get agency, I get to make that decision whether I want to or not. It's not absolutely foolproof, and this isn't about, denying things. It's not about not thinking in a certain way. It just absolutely opens a door to having much more loving thinking and the ability to recognize when I am not doing that. It is huge. So to me, an understanding of what it is that what trauma is, what Gabor and RANI were talking about, and I will put the link to that down below this video, and having an understanding of that, then understanding that how my experience is created, seeing that I don't have to be afraid of my experience, and then making this commitment to live from love, not fear. Wow, that is a game changer. I'd love to know what you think. I'd love to know what came up for you when you were watching this. I would love to know if you have questions. Do put them in the comments below. And if you want to, if you've liked this and this video has blessed you, please do like, subscribe to my channel. And if you know someone else who this video could help, please do pass it on. And if you would like to dive more deeply into this, there are some links below where you can join a live love experiment and get more involved, which I would absolutely love you to do. Take care, have a great day, and I will be back with another video soon. Lots and lots of love.